The headlights of Jack Turner's battered Chevy sliced through the swirling snow, casting long shadows across the ice-slick road. His tires rasped against packed drifts as he crested the final hill outside Cedar Falls. That's when he saw her, a dark silhouette huddled on the shoulders, shaking in the wind's savage howl. Jack slammed the truck into park, wrenched open the door, and his boots crunched through the fresh powder. The wind cut through his coat like an angry blade as he stumbled forward. There, curled against the white embankment, was a girl no older than 18, her thin sweatshirt soaked and clinging to a rounded belly. Her dark hair masked a face etched with fear. Jack's heart seized. He didn't hesitate. "Hey!" he called over the roar of the storm, voice rough. "You're coming with me." If this snowy rescue hooked you, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss a single chapter of this incredible journey. Jack Turner had never planned on being a hero. A widowed clocksmith with a 10-year-old daughter to raise his life, thrummed with predictable rhythms, morning coffee with Lily, repairing antique timepieces in his workshop, and evening stories by the hearth. But tonight shattered every routine. He hoisted the shivering stranger into the passenger seat, brushing clumps of snow from her thin layers. "Just hold on," he muttered, turning the key and wrestling the truck back onto the road. Inside the cabin, warmth hit her like a wave. Jack guided her arm around a damp towel draped over a chair. Lily, clutching a flashlight, blinked awake at the top of the stairs. On seeing the stranger, her eyes widened, but Jack's calm voice halted any questions. "She needs help," he said. "Meet Mia." Lily descended carefully, her blanket trailing behind like a lantern's glow. Mia sank into the chair, eyes darting as if distrust was second nature. Jack returned with steaming bowls of lentil soup. "You must be hungry," he said, setting a bowl before Mia. She cradled it, steam fogging her lashes, and ate in measured spoonfuls. Lily hovered, then offered her favorite storybook, a battered copy of Charlotte's Web. Mia's lips curved in a wry half-smile. "Thanks," she whispered. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Jack rose and retrieved a second blanket. "You can sleep in Lily's room," he said. "I'll take the couch." Mia's shoulders tightened. "I don't want to be any trouble." Jack shook his head. "None at all. You're safe here." Upstairs, Lily set out pajamas and fresh sheets. Mia peeled off her damp clothes and donned the soft flannel shirt Jack had laid out. In the dim glow, she traced the quilt's pattern, breathing deeply. Lily perched on the bed. "I'm Lily. You can call me that." Mia nodded, voice barely a breeze. "Mia." Before sleep claimed them, Lily reached out and took Mia's hand. "My dad's nice." Mia's eyes glistened. "Thanks," she repeated. The next morning dawned pale and silver. Jack was already in the kitchen whisking pancake batter. Lily bounded down the stairs, hair tousled, eyes bright. Mia appeared in the doorway, meeker than yesterday, but curious. Jack flipped a pancake onto their plates and poured maple syrup. "Eat up," he said. "There's wood to chop." Mia joined them at the table, plates balanced on laps. Lily chattered about school friends, a spelling bee lost library books, while Mia listened, blinking at the mention of spelling bees. After breakfast, they donned coats and stepped into the half-frozen yard. Jack handed Mia an axe. "Show me you've got arms." He grinned, and Mia hesitated only a moment before splitting a log on her first try. Lily cheered. Mia laughed genuinely for the first time, and Jack felt something thaw inside him. Back in the workshop, Jack demonstrated clock repair. Mia watched the tiny gears with fascination, fingers itching to touch. "Ever work on clocks?" he asked. Mia shook her head. "I've worked on cars, my mom's." Surprise flickered across Jack's face. "You know your way around machinery?" Mia shrugged. "I learned quick." Their bond deepened over shared tasks, feeding the wood stove, clearing snow, and repairing a battered cuckoo clock. Lily would peek in, offering crayons and paper. Mia sketched tiny bird designs on clock faces, deriving comfort from creation. Jack watched her settle the rigid tension in her shoulders, loosening with each tick-tock of repaired gears. By evening, a routine emerged. Lily read aloud from Charlotte's Web, her voice steady and bright. Mia traced the lines with her fingertip, occasionally correcting Lily's pronunciation. Jack listened from the doorway, chest warm with pride. The storm still raged outside, but inside was a different kind of storm, one of healing connection and new beginnings. Later, Mia rose to fetch her letters, handwritten promises to the daughter growing within her. She hesitated by the hearth hand hovering over the wooden box Jack had shown her. With a determined nod, she tucked a fresh page inside and closed the lid. Jack watched from the shadows, understanding that Mia's journey had truly begun. As Jack turned to blow out the kitchen light, Lily yawned beside him. "Think Mia's okay?" she asked. Jack placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. "She will be," he said, "because now she has us." And in that moment, the storm outside felt less formidable than the warmth they'd built and the promise of second chances that would carry them forward. Jack found himself using words he never thought he'd say. "My cabin's just up the road," he called over the wind, tugging Mia to her feet. She eased from the snowbank with surprising grace, knees wobbling beneath her thin jeans. Her fingers were numb, wrapped around the threads of her soaked sweatshirt. "You don't have to," she whispered, voice raw. But Jack shook his head, his breath frosty in the air. "Yes, you do. I can't leave you out here." He half carried her to the passenger side of the Chevy, lifting her legs into the cab as though she weighed nothing. She clutched the seat eyes darting between him and the wipers that battered the windshield. Jack didn't press her for questions. He slammed the door and punched the heater to high, then guided the truck back onto the road. The engine growled into the storm, and the cabin's windows appeared through the white blur like faint beacons. Inside the space was small and fragrant with pine and well-worn cedar. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting golden shadows across the knotted wood walls. A row of cedar shingles stacked for winter repairs leaned against one corner. Maisie, Jack's daughter, sat cross-legged on the couch, a flashlight in one hand and a dog-eared novel in the other. When the front door swung open, she nearly dropped the book. Dad Maisie's voice quivered between curiosity and concern. She was 10, fiercely protective with a shock of curly hair and eyes that missed nothing. Jack set Mia gently on a stool by the hearth and grabbed a towel from the rack. "This is Mia," he said, draping the towel over her shoulders. "She needs somewhere warm." Mia's gaze flicked to the floor. "I thank you," she murmured, voice so soft it could have been swallowed by the flames. Jack cleared his throat. "Soup's on the stove. Help yourself." Maisie hopped up, blanket falling from her lap. She disappeared into the kitchen and reappeared with a steaming bowl held by both hands. "Here." She settled beside Mia, offering a spoonful. Mia looked at her, startled by the small kindness, then accepted a taste. The warmth pooled in her chest. Maisie, smiling shyly, pressed the spoon toward her again. Jack stacked more wood on the fire and turned to find his daughter watching him. "She's pregnant," he said quietly, staring at the flickering logs. Mia's hand tightened on the blanket as though bracing herself. Maisie raised an eyebrow old beyond her years but said nothing. She simply handed Mia a second bowl, making space between them. After they ate in silence, punctuated only by the soup's ladle and the fire's hiss, Jack retrieved a thick wool blanket and draped it around Mia's shoulders. "You can sleep upstairs," he said, voice gentle. Mia paused, chest heaving with a sigh of relief and shame all at once. She looked at Maisie, at Jack, at the cabin's worn comforts, and nodded. Upstairs, the bedroom smelled like lavender sachets and worn flannel sheets. Maisie showed Mia the guest bed where a stack of folded pajamas lay. Mia peeled off her damp clothes and slipped into the flannel shirt Jack had placed on the bed. The fabric was soft, imbued with the gentle aroma of cedar. She sank onto the mattress, tucking her knees to her chest. Maisie perched on the edge of the bed legs, swinging. She opened her mouth to speak, then thought tease. Instead, she leaned forward and placed a hand on Mia's knee. "Good night," she whispered. Mia's eyes filled with tears she hadn't felt safe enough to shed in weeks. She nodded, voice catching. "Good night." Downstairs, Jack let the front door close with a soft click. He found the fire still warm, the cabin's breathing steady. He poured himself 2 mugs of cocoa, one for himself, one for Maisie, and carried them to the kitchen table where he sat alone. Maisie soon joined him, rubbing her arms. "Can you tell me her story?" she asked, voice hushed. Jack stirred his cocoa slowly. "We'll see," he said, admiration and caution mingling in his tone. Maisie nodded, her gaze steady. "Okay." Morning arrived not with fanfare, but a hush, a pale light filtering through frost-lined windows. Jack was at the stove flipping pancakes when Mia crept downstairs in the flannel shirt and jeans that fit like a child's hand covers an adult's. She carried a mug of tea Jack had brewed earlier. She sipped carefully, then offered him the empty mug. Jack shook his head. You keep it. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Maisie chattered about school, her spelling bee, her best friend's family dog, the math quiz she aced. Mia listened, eyes softening with each familiar detail, each ordinary moment she'd lost faith could still exist. When Jack asked, "How do you feel?" she placed a hand on her belly. Cold. Hungry. Thankful. Jack passed her an extra pancake, and Maisie taught her how to fold it into quarters for syrup pooling. Mia laughed, the sound surprising her pure and unguarded. Jack caught Maisie's eye and raised an eyebrow. Maisie shrugged with a grin. They let Mia have that laughter-carving space for light amid her darkness. The day stretched ahead with chores stacking firewood, feeding the stove, clearing snow. Jack assigned Mia to split logs beside him. She lifted the axe and swung the blade, biting into wood with a satisfying crack. Jack nodded approval. Not bad, he said. Mia's lips quirked upward. I'm stronger than I look, she replied, surprising them both. As evening fell, Jack led Mia to the kitchen table, where he kept a wooden box, a keepsake of the family's past. He opened it to reveal folded letters, each addressed to his daughter on birthdays past. Ever write letters to someone you haven't met? He asked, passing her a fresh sheet. Mia hesitated, then accepted the pen. She sat by the fire's glow and began to write to the daughter she carried within, pouring out confessions of fear, promises of love, and hopes for a better tomorrow. Jack watched her in the firelight, embers dancing across her face. Maisie sat beside her, arms wrapped around her knees, silent support embodied. The cabin's walls absorbed their quiet, bearing witness to a new family forming in the wake of a single brave act of kindness. When the words dried on the page, Mia folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the box. She looked up at Jack, gratitude mingled with vulnerability in her eyes. Jack offered a small smile. Get some rest, he said softly. Mia nodded, the burden of her journey eased by the shared warmth around her. As the night settled in, the storm still raging outside the cabin's small circle of light held them secure. One woman, two parents, one child born of loss and love. They leaned into the quiet promise that this act of shelter would ripple into every tomorrow they dared to imagine. Morning light slanted through the frost-rimmed windows, painting the cabin's living room in soft gold. The storm had finally eased overnight, leaving drifts of sparkling snow piled against the porch steps and the scent of spruce lingering in the air. Inside, the crackle of the dying fire mingled with the faint hiss of the old kettle warming on the stove. Jack Turner stirred pancake batter at the counter, breathing in the peaceful hush. On the couch, Lily lay curled beneath a patchwork quilt, flashlight still clasped in her small hand, and the dog-eared pages of her book resting on her chest. She dozed mid-story, and the beam of the flashlight still swept gently across the ceiling, as if she were chasing characters through the rafters. Mia slipped quietly toward the kitchen table, her threadbare jeans creaking softly. She spotted a pair of bowls, one floral china and one deep ceramic, waiting by a ladle of steaming oatmeal. Jack turned at the sight of Mia before her feet touched the floor. Morning, he said, voice low but warm. Hot oats. He scooped a generous portion into the deeper bowl and handed it to Mia, who wrapped both hands around the bowl's warmth. The oatmeal swirled with cinnamon and brown sugar ribbons, releasing a comforting steam that fogged her glasses. Lily stirred, then sat up, flashlight clattering onto the cushion. Her hair was mussed, eyes bright with youthful curiosity. Mia's heart wobbled at the sight the 10-year-old's face was framed by curls, and her gaze held a quotient of gentle bravery. "Hi, Lily," said voice small. She slid off the couch and padded to the table, folding the quilt behind her. Jack poured a second bowl of oatmeal, setting it in front of Lily. "Eat up," he said. "Big day." Lily nodded, spoon poised. Mia watched her, wondering what thoughts flickered behind those clear blue eyes. Lily dipped in blue on the oats, then tasted. She chewed thoughtfully, peered over her bowl at Mia, and said, "Thanks for helping Dad last night." Mia froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. She began, but the words tangled in her throat. Lily's face was open, expectant, as if she'd just accepted that strangers sometimes needed saving. Mia swallowed the lump of fear and nodded, letting the spoon clatter softly into the bowl. "You're welcome," she whispered. Jack cleared his throat, breaking the moment. After breakfast, I need you two to help me clear the driveway, he said. Plow's stuck in the snow. Lily raised an eyebrow at Mia, offered a conspiratorial grin, and said, Want to crash the plow with us? Mia blinked. She'd never driven a tractor or plow, but Lily's smile was contagious. She found herself nodding before her brain caught up. Yeah, sure. They finished their oatmeal, passing sugar, cinnamon, and milk back and forth. Lily chattered about school, her spelling bee victory, the upcoming winter carnival, the problem she'd had with fractions. Mia listened intently, nodding, asking follow-up questions. Jack watched them from the doorway, pride softening his stern features. Outside, the air was crisp enough to sting lungs, but the sun glinted off the snow in a promise of spring to come. Jack led the way to the shed where the tractor's engine had frozen in a thick crust of ice. Mia wrapped her hands around Jack's oil-stained gloves and helped free the plow blade with Lily's assistance. They worked side by side, laughter arising when the seat collapsed under Lily's weight or when Mia's scarf tangled in the gear shift. Once the plow sputtered to life, its growl echoed through the trees like a triumphant roar. Jack climbed aboard the driver's seat, Lily squeezed in behind him, and Mia hopped up onto the back. Jack guided the plow through drifts taller than Lily's waist, the blade cutting clean paths back to the road. Mia braced herself, enjoying the bump and sway of the tractor, as though it were a roller coaster. Lily let out a delighted shout each time the blade smashed through a heavy snowbank, sending spray and shimmering arcs. When they'd cleared enough for a single lane, Jack cut the engine. They tumbled off in a tangle of scarves and mittens, breathless with exhilaration. Mia's cheeks were bright, and Lily punched her lightly on the arm. See, she said. Nothing to be afraid of. Mia's smile wasn't brave, it was real. They trudged back to the cabin, the snow crunching under their boots. Jack held the door for them, and they shook off snow like two new friends emerging from a secret adventure. Inside, warm air enveloped them once more. Lily dropped her boots by the rack, and Mia peeled off her gloves, placing them on the radiator to dry. Jack refilled their cocoa mugs as Lily sculpted a snowman in her mind, telling Mia every detail she planned for Carrot Nose and Pebble Eyes. Mia found herself chattering back, giving suggestions on how to use pinecone buttons. Later by the fire, Lily dozed once more, head resting against Mia's leg, as they all settled into a cozy circle. Jack leaned forward in his armchair, watching the two of them with a quiet smile. Mia stroked Lily's hair, remembering that first morning's frightened glance. Now, in the soft glow of the hearth, she saw no fear, only trust. The bond between them had flickered to life over bowls of oatmeal and shared labor in the snow. Jack cleared his throat gently. How about some stories, he asked, reaching for the stack of books on the coffee table. Lily's eyes opened fully this time, sparkling at his words. Mia felt her heart swell at the invitation. As Jack began to read, his voice rich and soothing, the cabin hushed around them. Outside, the world was still locked in winter's embrace, but inside, three lives. Once strangers were weaving into an unexpected family. And in the gentle cadence of Jack's storytelling, Mia realized that whatever tomorrow brought, she no longer had to face it alone. Mia eased into the morning light of Jack Turner's cabin as if awakening from a long, restless dream. The storm had passed, leaving the world draped in crystalline white, but inside was something warmer than any sunbeam. Jack and Lily were already in the kitchen when she crept downstairs. Jack at the counter pouring coffee for himself, and Lily busily buttering toast with the kind of graceful efficiency that only a 10-year-old raised by a single parent could master. Mia paused at the doorway, watching the way Jack handed the mug to Lily with that gentle, everyday care, and somehow it soothed a frayed corner of her heart. Jack beckoned her forward. "Cereal or oatmeal?" he asked. Voice a low baritone that vibrated through the quiet room. Lily didn't look up, but she slid the bowl of oatmeal toward Mia. Same as yesterday, she offered, her tone matter-of-fact but kind. Mia nodded, heart fluttering with gratitude. She poured her own bowl, measuring the oats by memory, and stirred in cinnamon and a trickle of honey, just as Jack taught her. Lily's second bowl was already ready when Mia reached across an unspoken acknowledgement that she belonged. For the first time in weeks, Mia let herself settle into a routine that wasn't dictated by fear. After breakfast, Jack grabbed his heavy coat and swung open the door. "Time for firewood," he announced. Lily bounded ahead, scooping fresh logs from the stack by the shed. Mia followed more slowly, adjusting her scarf, and pulling on gloves that Jack had loaned her. She'd never thought she'd be trusted with an axe, but Jack handed it to her without a word. Her grip tightened around the handle, and she felt the weight transfer from the cold of last night into something solid and dependable in her hands. Jack demonstrated a practice swing, watching the blade slice into the wood with a satisfying crack. Mia copied his stance, flexing shoulder and wrist, then brought the axe down. The log split neatly, and they exchanged a look of quiet triumph. With the wood stacked neatly in the shed's lean-to, Mia felt the first real spark of pride since she'd arrived. Proof that she could still be useful, still be strong. Lily skipped back inside, and Jack lingered at the door, his gaze encouraging. Mia stepped into the yard, shoulders squared, as though shrugging off the last vestiges of cold. Each log she stacked was a small truss placed in her each swing of the axe, a measure of the confidence she was learning to give herself again. Inside the cabin's warmth felt richer than ever. Jack stoked the fire, amber tongues licking around the logs. Lily gathered blankets and set them on the couch, then fetched a tray of mugs for Coco. Mia observed the choreography of their morning, Jack's deliberate scrape of wood against Stone Lily's nimble fingers, uncorking the cocoa tin the way she tipped a spoonful of sugar into each mug just so. Mia carried her bowl of oatmeal to the table, but instead of retreating to a corner, she took the chair directly across from Lily. Their eyes met in a moment of shared acknowledgement. No words were needed, only the steam rising between them to affirm that she was welcome. As the day brightened, Jack clapped his hands. "Let's fix that leaky door," he declared. Mia rose to join him, spoon clattering into the bowl. In the entryway, a draft hissed through a crack beneath the threshold. Jack handed her a screwdriver and showed her how to tighten the strike plate. With each turn of the screw, Mia felt the edges of her world click into place. She tightened the last screw and tested the door. It closed with a satisfying thud. Jack nodded, pride shining in his eyes, and Mia nearly glowed with the knowledge that she'd made their home more secure. By afternoon, the sweat in Mia's gloves had evaporated, replaced by the satisfying ache of honest work. Jack guided her to the workshop where an old cuckoo clock awaited repairs. Lily sat nearby on a wooden stool, humming to herself. Jack explained how a missing gear could freeze the mechanism, and Mia peered through the magnifying glass he offered. Her slender fingers plucked the tiny gear from its tray and clicked it into place. When the clock sprang to life, bird chirping, pendulum swinging, Mia felt something inside her click back into motion too. The knowledge that she could build, not just destroy, that she could mend what she once thought broken beyond repair. Evening settled gently over the cabin as they returned to the hearth. Jack lit candles along the mantel, and Lily spread a thick quilt across the floor. Mia curled up against it, the flames dancing across her face. Jack fetched a well-worn guitar from its corner and began to strum a familiar melody. Lily closed her eyes and let the music wash over her, humming along. Mia watched their silhouettes against the flickering glow, realizing that trust wasn't just about tasks. It was woven in moments like this, in shared silence and soft song. Jack's voice joined the guitar, low and comforting, weaving a story of journeys taken and homecomings earned. Mia's gaze drifted to Lily's profile, the way her lips moved in time with the tune. Mia felt the music echo in her chest, urging her forward. Carefully, she uncrossed her legs and scooted closer until her shoulder brushed Lily's. Lily opened her eyes, offered a nod of invitation. Mia leaned in and hummed a tentative harmony, her voice rough at first, then gaining strength. Jack smiled without missing a beat, weaving her note into the chord progression. Together, the three created a fragile but fearless chorus, proof that broken things could be made whole again. When the last chord faded, they sat in a peaceful hush, the only sound the crackle of the logs. Mia realized that every bowl of oatmeal, every log she'd stacked, every clock she'd fixed had brought her here to a place of quiet belonging she almost didn't dare to imagine. Jack rose to refill their mugs, and Lily slid her hand into Mia's, giving it a gentle squeeze. Mia's chest tightened with emotion, but she squeezed back, grateful for the bond taking root. Outside, night fell in a soft blanket of purple and starshine. Inside, the cabin glowed with the promise of tomorrow, a tomorrow Mia once thought she'd never see. As she let the warmth of the hearth seep into her bones, she knew that trust wasn't a gift given once. It was earned every morning over steaming bowls and every evening by the fire, and she was ready to earn it one small act at a time. The wind rattled the cabin shutters like drum beats, a warning that the storm outside was no ordinary snowfall. Jack peered out the window, eyebrows knitting together as thick white curtains billowed across the driveway. "Looks like we've got a full-on blizzard," he said, voice steady but tinged with concern. Lily bounded over, her rosy cheeks pressed against the glass, breath fogging a small circle. "Can we build more snow angels today?" "Dad?" she asked, eyes sparkling with excitement. Mia stood behind them, shoulders hunched, watching the swirling snow with both curiosity and hesitation. Jack turned from the window and offered Mia his hand. "Want to join us? Bundle up?" He nodded toward the hall closet, where thick parkas, wool scarves, and mittens hung like colorful flags. Mia hesitated. Her thin sweater was no match for the storm's fury, but something in Lily's expectant gaze reached out to her. She slipped on the borrowed coat, feeling its weight settle around her shoulders like an unexpected promise of safety. As she tightened the scarf around her neck, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror, a girl she barely recognized. Cheeks, pale eyes, wary. But then Lily reached out to tug her forward, and Mia followed each step, leaving a fresh imprint in the knee-deep drift. Outside the air was a wall of white visibility reduced to a few feet. Jack led the way, breaking trail through the porch's drifts. Lily skipped ahead, arms outstretched, twirling in wide circles as snowflakes clung to her eyelashes. Mia's feet sank with each step, but she pressed on until they reached the clearing beyond the cabin, a wind-swept glade surrounded by tall pines bending under the storm's weight. The world here was hushed, save for the wind's roaring chorus and the soft crunch of their boots. Lily dove backward onto the snow, arms and legs flailing, and let out a squeal of delight. As she rose, she traced her arms through the snow, leaving a perfect angel with a frilled skirt and long, graceful wings. Mia watched for a moment, heart fluttering with an unfamiliar longing. Lily turned and waved her over. "You try?" She called, breath a cloud in the frigid air. Mia opened her arms tentatively and sat down, closing her eyes to the cold that bit through her gloves. She kicked her legs gently, sweeping her arms in slow arcs, then lay back and opened her eyes to the gray sky above. The motion was awkward at first. Her legs didn't rise as high. Her arms scraped harsh lines, but soon she found a rhythm, the back-and-forth motion soothing in its simplicity. When she stood and brushed the residual snow from her coat, she felt something shift inside her chest, a flicker of childish joy that she thought had been lost forever. Jack and Lily stood at the edge of the clearing, their forms blurred by the snow. Lily called out, "Look, Mia, yours is perfect." Mia blinked, then chuckled, a sound so soft and rare it seemed to startle her. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, as she realized she was laughing. Truly, laughing with no weight of fear knotting her chest. The echo of her laughter bounced off the snowy pines, a pure note in the storm's white noise. Lily danced closer, arms raised, and together they marveled at the pair of angels glowing on the ground. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, holding it aloft. "Group photo," he shouted against the wind. Lily sprinted back to stand beside Mia, matching coats, mittens like tiny boats, and Jack took a quick snapshot. When the flash went off, a halo of light bloomed for a moment, catching every snowflake in midair. Mia peered at the photo, then at Jack, and winked. In that instant, she felt part of something larger than her own survival. She was woven into a new story, one where laughter could bloom even in the midst of a blizzard. They spent the next hour running through the clearing, Lily showing Mia how to make snowballs, Mia returning the favor with soft, gentle throws that landed like powder puffs. Jack joined in the three of them, an impromptu team battling imaginary foes with snow missiles and fits of giggles. At one point, Lily perched atop a drift and declared herself queen of the snow, and Mia bowed in mock reverence, delighting Lily with her theatrical flourish. Eventually, Jack called a truce. "Warm up inside," he said, voice breathless. Lily and Mia trudged back, faces flushed and clothes damp. Jack opened the door and they tumbled into the cabin like souvenirs of the storm, leaving tracks of white behind them. The warmth hit Mia immediately, a closing of winter's vice. Lily peeled off her gloves and flung them toward the wood stove, where they landed in a soft spray of embers. Mia shook the snow from her hem and followed Lily to the hearth, then sank into an armchair that enveloped her in comfort. Jack bustled in with a kettle of hot cocoa, and Lily grabbed mugs for them. Mia wrapped her fingers around the ceramic, drinking in the sweet, steaming liquid that felt like a homecoming in a cup. The fire crackled, sending tendrils of warmth across the room and tenderly chasing away the chill in Mia's bones. Lily snuggled under the quilt beside her, and Mia leaned in, head resting against Lily's shoulder as they sipped in companionable silence. "Thanks," Mia said finally, voice low but genuine. Lily looked up, eyes bright. "You're welcome," she replied, and her smile was like a sunrise after endless night. Jack settled in across from them, legs curled under himself, and picked up his guitar. He strummed a gentle chord, one they'd learned together, and Lily joined in with a hum. Mia closed her eyes and let the music wash over her, a lullaby of belonging she'd never known she needed. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the cabin was a world entirely their own. For the first time since she'd arrived, Mia felt her fear melt away in the snow's wake, replaced by laughter and the unspoken promise that no matter how fierce the blizzard, she would never face it alone again. The fire crackles low in the stone hearth, sending warm flickers across the knotty pine walls of Jack Turner's cabin. Outside, the last embers of the blizzard swirl against the windows, but inside there is only the soft glow of the flames and the hush that follows an evening of shared laughter. Jack sits in his favorite armchair, guitar resting across his lap, fingers idly brushing the strings. Lily is curled on the rug, tracing shapes in the braided fibers with her fingertips, eyes heavy with sleep, but unwilling to slip into slumber. And Mia sits on the couch, knees drawn to her chest, a well-worn notebook open on her lap. Jack watches her for a moment, heart tugging with a mixture of anticipation and gentle worry. Earlier tonight, when Lily drifted to sleep, Mia slid the notebook into Jack's outstretched hand. "I've been writing letters," she said softly, voice barely rising above the fire's whisper. "To her, my daughter." Jack flipped through the pages, careful not to disturb the inked lines, and found a folded sheet marked by a single red heart. He handed it back without comment, trusting that when Mia was ready, she'd share the words. Now, under the candlelight and crackling warmth, Mia's fingers trace the edge of that letter. She inhales, steadying herself against the weight of her own courage, and looks up at Jack. "I want you to hear them," she says, voice quavering just slightly. Jack sets aside his guitar, leans forward, and nods. "Whenever you're ready," he replies, eyes soft with respect. Mia smooths the paper, unfolds it, and clears her throat. The cabin holds its breath as she begins to read. "Dear Hope, I don't know if you'll ever read these words, but I need you to know who I was before you came along. I was scared, terrified really, of everything that lay ahead. I thought I had nothing left to give, but then I found the courage to step into that storm, into a stranger's truck, because I believed in something better. I believe in you." Jack shifts in his chair, the wood groaning beneath him, and Lily leans forward, propping her chin on her hands. Even in sleepiness, her gaze is steady, understanding beyond her years. Mia continues, voice growing stronger with each sentence. "There are days when shame sits on my chest like a stone, and nights when I can't sleep for fear I'll fail you before you even arrive. But I want you to know this. I love you more than I ever thought possible. You are the best part of me, the flicker of light that kept me moving when I thought everything was lost." Her hands tremble as she turns the page, ink smudged at the corners where tears have fallen. Jack rises and sets a comforting hand on her shoulder, but Mia doesn't pause. "I promise to teach you how to laugh, how to trust, and how to find warmth even when the world feels cold. I promise to hold you when you cry, to steady you when you falter, and to celebrate every small victory as though it were the greatest triumph in the world." Lily's eyes glisten with unshed tears. Jack swallows, throat tight. He can feel the power of Mia's words echoing in the cabin, weaving into the fabric of their newfound family. Mia takes a breath but doesn't close the notebook. She lifts her gaze to Jack's vulnerability and resolve shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispers, voice catching. "Thank you for giving me a place to write these letters, for giving me hope when I thought I had none." Jack kneels in front of her, gently closing the notebook. "Thank you," he echoes, "for trusting me with your words and with your heart." He glances at Lily, whose small hand reaches out to touch Mia's knee, a silent pledge of solidarity. Mia allows herself a slow exhale. The tension that held her shoulders rigid in anticipation seems to melt away, replaced by a warmth that rivals the hearth. She sets the notebook on the coffee table, closes it with tender care, and looks around the cozy room at the fire, at Lily's expectant face, at Jack's steady presence. "Can we—" Mia's voice trails off as she searches for the right words. Jack offers a smile so gentle it glows in the firelight. "You can stay here," he says simply, "for as long as you need." At that, Lily smiles and reaches for Mia's hand, lacing their fingers together. "We're your family," Lily says. Her words hang in the air, softer than a lullaby, but more powerful than any decree. Mia's eyes fill with tears of relief and gratitude. She nods, voice small, but certain, "I want that." Jack stands and crosses to the hearth, pulling a fresh log onto the embers. The flames leap up, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Mia, Lily, and Jack settle into their places, the three of them bound by shared trust and unspoken promise. Later, when the cabin grows silent and the only sound is Lily's gentle breathing on the couch, Mia retrieves her notebook once more. She writes one final line for tonight. "You are loved. Hope beyond measure." She places the letter back in the wooden box on the mantel, the same box that holds Jack's memories and Lily's laughter. As she closes the notebook for the night, Mia feels something she hasn't felt in a long time. Hope that extends beyond the page, beyond her solitary fears, into the warmth of a family that chose her. And in that hush before sleep, the fire's glow seems to whisper back in reassurance, "You are home." The storm outside had dwindled to a moan by the time Mia first felt the sharp stab of pain. She awoke in the hush between dark and dawn, breath hitching as the ache tightened around her belly. For a moment she lay still, listening to the old cabin settle, a floorboard, groaning wind rattling the shutters, the far-off roll of thunder. Then another wave hit stronger, and she knew herself in labor. Mia blinked awake Jack Turner, who was dozing in the armchair by the fire. His guitar lay across his lap, a testament to the music that had brought them together, but now it was abandoned in favor of urgent care. Jack stirred, eyes bleary but instantly alert when he saw Mia clutching the edge of the couch. "Mia," he whispered, voice thick. "Are you okay?" She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to steady her breath. I think it's time," she managed. Fear laced her words, but beneath it lay steely determination. Jack rose, careful not to wake Lily, and guided her to the guest room at the end of the hall. The candles he lit there cast elongated shadows on the walls. The flickering glow made every corner seem alive with movement. He laid fresh blankets on the bed and handed Mia a glass of water. She drank each swallow, trembling against another contraction. "I've never—" Jack began, swallowing hard. "Delivered a baby." Mia gave him a fierce, weary smile. "Neither have I," she whispered. "But we'll do this together." The wind ramped up outside, rattling the windows with a renewed fury. Jack dashed to the fireplace and added more logs, the sparks dancing up the chimney like sparks of hope. He returned to Mia's side just as another contraction tore through her. She gripped the headboard, knuckles white. Jack knelt beside her, hands outstretched. "Tell me how I can help," he said gently. Mia exhaled, body shaking. "Support me," she whispered. "Don't let me fall." Jack slid behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, his chest pressing against hers to anchor her trembling form. He breathed with her, inhale, hold, exhale, and counted each wave until the pain ebbed enough for Mia to find words. "The bag," she gasped. "It's in the next room." Jack rose swiftly and returned with the emergency kit, a collection of clean towels, scissors, and sterile gloves. He set them out on a small table and washed his hands at the sink, water cold but necessary. Mia watched, trusting him with each precise movement. When Jack slipped on the gloves, he looked up at her and she